Good evening on this lovely, warm, hot day, and welcome to this extraordinary meeting of Melton Borough Council. This meeting has been called because a requisition was presented to me, signed by 5 members of the Council, wishing to debate a motion relating to car parking charges. The Constitution allows for extraordinary meetings to be called, and tonight's meeting enables this matter to be debated. As I said into my introduction speech at the annual meeting, I expect all debates to be conducted in a courteous and respectful way, and contributions should be focused on the issue, not on attacking individuals. Can I also remind all members that officers' conduct is not a matter for debate, and that an independent review has already been commissioned, and therefore conjecture on what took place and is not helpful at this stage. Thank you for your support and assistance in this. Okay, housekeeping. Evacuation procedures. In the event of having to evacuate the council chambers, please leave by one of the 6 emergency exits around the sides of the chamber. Please assemble at the far side of the front car park nearest the park entrance. Officers will be on hand to assist persons who require any assistance. Public recording in the meeting. There is a legislation that allows public to film, record, and use social media at the council meeting. This must not be in disruption of a good order of the meeting, nor include any filming of recording of the public seating area. Please switch all mobile phones to silence. Microphones. Councillors and officers are reminded to use the microphones when speaking for the benefit of all present. Electronic voting. Tonight we will be using the electronic voting system. This means that votes will be carried out via the microphone handset. When voting is taking place, you will be given 3 options: yes, abstain, and no. And there will be 3 buttons flashing beneath the options. When the voting is open, please select the corresponding button in order to register your voting. I now will pass over to Reverend Dr. Mary Barr for prayers.
Thank you. We live in a world where there's so much conflict, don't we? At the moment, it's brought into our living rooms, our homes, in the daily news. And of course, our own societies are not immune from disagreements. Our council isn't immune from disagreement. The church, as you're aware, isn't immune from disagreement. When disagreement bothers us, I find it helpful to focus on 2 things: on giving thanks for what is good and working together for the purpose for which we've been called to serve other people. So that's the theme of the prayer that I'm going to lead now. Lord God, we give you thanks and praise for the freedom and safety in which we live, for justice and order in our society, for standards of truth and honour, and for all our rights and privileges. This evening, we especially thank you for the life of the town of Melton Mowbray and the surrounding villages, and for all who share in our community's activities. We give thanks and pray for the work of our mayor and those elected to serve as councillors, and for the council staff who support them in serving this locality. We pray that all may exercise their responsibilities wisely and faithfully, to promote the welfare of all people and seek the common good, that all may live together in peace and harmony. And this we pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
First item on agenda, apologies for absences. Apologies for absences have been received by Councillor Addock, Clive, Chubb and Freer. Does anybody know of any more people that are absent, please do so by raising your hand. Item number 2, declaration of interest. Any member who would like to indicate that they have an interest to declare, would they please do so by raising their hand. On other registrable interest in respect of Councillor Jo Olsen, it's taken as being on record for any matters which are related to Leicester County Council. Agenda number 3, motion. I will now invite Councillor Jo Olsen to present the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And first of all, I wish to move I'm being told by Simon it's the blue order paper, because if you remember, I'm a little bit colourblind. So on the blue order motion, item 3, 1, 2, 3A, B, C, D, and E. Members, we gather this evening to address an issue that has rightly caused concern amongst our residents. The recent increase in car park charges and the clerical errors that have clouded its implementation. This is not just about a mistake in paperwork. It speaks to deeper questions about how we govern and the standards we hold ourselves to. Accessible and affordable parking is not a privilege. It's a basic need for our community. And while financial pressures may have prompted this policy change, the public pushback was both predictable and justified. Policy shifts of this nature demand transparency, accuracy, and accountability. Yet what we've seen instead is a troubling breakdown in due process. This is not a single isolated misstep. First, there was the original error concerning the publication of notifications. Then, once notices were finally issued, a car park was inexplicably missing. And just 2 days ago, I discovered a reference to a new off-street parking order 2025 on the Melton Borough Council website. An order that appears to have no public explanation. Has a new order been introduced? If so, where is the consultation? Where is the clarity? If not, why is it there? This is not just confusing me, it will confuse the public we serve. But let us be clear, this isn't just a spreadsheet error, it's a question of trust. Trust in the Council's ability to manage your public resources effectively. Trust in honest, timely communication. Even small administrative mistakes can have significant real-world consequences for residents and local businesses. If not addressed properly, such errors can erode the very confidence people have in local governance. We must do more than simply fix what has gone wrong. We must strengthen the systems that prevent these kinds of failures in the first place. Our residents deserve more than a vague apology. They deserve answers, accountability, and a commitment to doing better. Let us also not forget, prior to the recent actions of this administration, MBC has amended off-street parking orders multiple times in the past. Each time, the process was properly followed, clearly communicated, and free of the kinds of errors we are now confronting. This is a new and troubling departure from what used to be a reliable and well-managed procedure. Tonight, members, we must reaffirm our commitment to responsible, transparent, and competent governance. Mistakes happen, but they must become opportunities for improvement, not recurring themes. Our residents have placed their trust in us, and it is our responsibility to prove that trust is deserved. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
I invite Councillor Child to second, please.
I reserve my right to speak later on. Thank you.
Thank you. I now will open this item to debate and invite members to raise their hand to indicate whether they wish to speak. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My portfolio responsibilities are that of finance, HR and assets, all of which have been impacted by this error. It is very valid that the opposition understand the loss that the council faced from this error. The figures available to me are also available to the Conservative group, and therefore I have been surprised at the daily increase in amounts published across social media platforms. This speculation has no purpose other than to cause alarm and concern to the public. As soon as the error was identified, I was briefed as the portfolio holder, not only on the impact of the error, but the immediate action that had been taken by all the senior leadership team. I'm satisfied that the correct HR procedures have been followed and that the mistake made does not indicate a pattern of poor performance. As such, the focus of the leadership team has been to ensure that no mistake of this nature will occur again. I will not support a witch hunt when, as an administration, we have supported the senior leadership team to stabilise the staff team at NBC. And I just want to give all councillors some figures to support this. In 22-23, the turnover of staff at NBC was running at 15%. For 24-25, it is now down to 10%. This figure links to the staff satisfaction, which has risen from 82% to 93% under the current administration. And most importantly, that also links to sickness taken by staff, which has also now dropped to 6.1 days per employee per year from 10 days when we took office, saving and getting better value for money for our community from the staff team that work for us. I raise this as an importance in an organisation to create a culture of openness that includes empowering people to speak up when a mistake has been made. And that is exactly what has happened here. I support the senior leadership team and managers to now ensure that the processes are reviewed to ensure this never happens again. Does that mean a mistake will never be made again? No, because it might be a shock to the opposition, but all our officers are human, as are we, and therefore we are all liable to make mistakes. Now, I know that as I say that we should be supporting the staff, the opposition will immediately accuse us of not considering the financial loss seriously. I can see the keyboard warriors waiting with bated breath to begin typing as I speak. As soon as this error occurred, the financial consequences were being calculated. What was also being considered was the impact. The officers of NBC are more acutely aware of the financial constraints and threats that they face than many of us here, as they have lived it through 20 years of Conservative management to a position we're in now. This administration promised financial stability and responsibility. The loss, which I will detail, equates to less than 1% of the council's net revenue expenditure. We are still very early in the financial year to fully consider the overall impact of the loss, and therefore there is no current activity to seek savings elsewhere. 24-25's financial outturn is still being finalised, but we anticipate a significant underspend on the general fund will be reported. This is due to the prudence of officers and this administration, seeking savings and value for money every step of the way with our residents' money. This prudence will allow the reserves to be bolstered above anticipated levels and carry over to boost spending in priority areas. Last year, an additional 35,000 was achieved from parking income, and this contributed to the positive final financial outturn. It also means we can start investing in our car parks, and in particular the dilapidated parking meters we inherited and car parks full of potholes. I mentioned the wild figures and speculation we have observed on social media and the keyboard warriors, so I need to set the record straight. There is no hidden agenda. We will be fully open about the loss that will be incurred. The anticipated loss for the period where fees were cancelled is 40,000. This is based on the same period last year. There is also potential anticipated loss of £600 for the annex car park, which remains free for the additional week. So the anticipated cost of free parking is
Excuse me, Councillor Cox, could you finish because you've got 20 seconds left?
20 seconds. So the total cost at this stage is £44,836. If there's any change to these costs, we're happy to share these figures. There is no additional cost of 25,000 that's been circulated. And finally, this administration recognised the critical position of the finances we inherited, and as such, this year we have bolstered the corporate reserves by over £1 million. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not terribly good at finance, really, but I just can't sort of understand this. When there was an error found, why couldn't we not just have, or you or whoever, just to recalibrate back to the previous charges? I don't understand why it couldn't have been done. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Gordon.
Oh, it's on there. Wow, amazing. Miracle. Yeah, I'd like to make an amendment, if I can, to this, to say this gives us an opportunity to have a review to see if the free car parking had any effect or not on businesses in the borough. I'd like that to be added on, please.
Is there a seconder for this amendment? Okay. Unfortunately, that falls away, Councillor Gordon. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Butcher, please.
Thank you, Councillor Cox, for your detailed finance report. This covers everything we need to know. This should make it clear to residents and stop the confusing details from the Conservative member, bloggers and YouTuber. The staff quickly rectified their mistake, and I believe in the process and it is taken in hand. The Conservatives will remember under them the £150,000 cleaning contract scandal that was a criminal offence. I note the administration did not stand down. The bid, myself and officers have worked hard to collect data ready for the next car parking review, and this would have saved us £19,822.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Clancy.
Thank you for seeing me. Sorry for waving my hand. Yes, whilst I understand the frustrations surrounding the error, human errors do happen. It wasn't a deliberate act against this council. The route for any investigation is audit and standards, I'm sure, as you all well know, and this is already in hand, so there is no need to demand this within your motions. You state the error will deprive the council of approximately £50,000 in expected revenue alongside an additional £7,500 We're having problems with this tonight, aren't we? These figures are inflated, as the estimate is around £40,000, as you've heard this evening. I understand one of your Conservative members on social media has exaggerated this figure to £70,000. It does keep growing, doesn't it? I must admit, I'm glad you're not my accountant, as I do really need you need a new calculator. The opposition seems to be very concerned about the loss of car parking income, yet you were against increasing car parking charges after a 5-year freeze. We increased the charges by 20% and increased the number of additional free spaces and also the free time to 30 minutes. A review of the car parking charges by yourselves in 2020 included a future review of all parking charges in 2024. As an administration, we decided not to do that and we would do it later. I really think it's about time you would perhaps make up your minds what you actually want. When we mentioned trust, the previous Conservatives committed a joint budget with another district council for up to £70,000 before, and I say before, they had sounded out political opinion. Subsequently, this motion failed at the fellow council that we were supposed to be amalgamating with. Hence, there was a waste of taxpayers' money on a wild goose chase. It was a costly error of judgment, which does happen. It was not a human error, which you were attacking tonight. We quickly recognised the critical position of our finances when we inherited the Conservative administration in 2023. We've reduced the waste of public money whilst delivering for residents and increasing the corporate reserves, as you've heard this evening. We have had to concentrate on the state of our assets, including garages, allotments and addressing leases, all work which should not have been ignored. We're extremely proud of what we have achieved by working in partnership with our officers, who I'd like to personally thank this evening. And that's probably what's upsetting the opposition. Rest assured, we will continue to deliver for residents. And personally, I would like to reiterate the thanks to the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clancy. Councillor Childs, do you wish to speak now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes.
Mayor, I have indicated I wanted to speak. Will I be able to speak?
Final speech.
No. Is this your final?
No. Yeah, he can speak at any point in the debate. Yeah, so it's just that. Yeah, so you can come to you afterwards.
Afterwards. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me talk you through the build-up of the figures. We all know the budget book is issued at the beginning of the year. If you look at page 52, line 11, for those who've got the budget book. Are you all right, Mr. Leader? It shows the estimate of income for car parks for the current year, 25-26, of almost £800,000. So if you take 21,365 of that figure, that will bring you to almost 46,000 as a starting point. The Burton Street Annex is closed for a further week, so that figure is estimated at between £600 and £1,000, as you, Councillor Cox rightly said. The period of free parking coincided with the 2-day Chiefs Fair, which, according to the promoter, had the highest attendance on record, with traffic backing up to B&Q on Leicester Road and people using the nearest car park available, which would have led to increase in takings. For these reasons, it is not correct nor accurate to compare the loss on a pro rata basis with the previous year. Coupled with that, the weather last May was cold and wet, whereas the warm, dry, sunny weather was part of the reason for the influx of visitors. The figure of 40,000 seems to me to be the tip of the iceberg and massively understated. Then there is the costs that have been spent, which in normal circumstances would not have been incurred. Costs such as the additional advertising, the likely cost of the investigation and report, the overtime, officer time and on costs working on this issue, meetings, etc. Further additional staffing costs incurred by the customer services department dealing with inquiries and refunds. As the council does not retain timesheets, even the management were unable to provide a meaningful estimate, although this will probably be in the region of £6,000 to £10,000. Where will the council find this huge shortfall in revenue? Rest assured the public may be benefiting from the parking for the time being, but they are sure to pay for this clerical error or slip up in the long term. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Arnott, would you like to? Oh,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only laugh because, of course, most people don't bring their budget book with them. That was all. And it's sorry.
do you want to speak now, or do you want to let Councillor?
I can let Councillor. No, you carry on. If you, I don't want to.
Right. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for giving way. I thought there was a point of clarification, but okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, as Chair of Audit and Standards, and I also include and look to my Vice Chair, as Mrs. Garton would point out, when we had our Chair and Vice Chair meeting, without consulting any other members or the Cabinet, we'd already asked for this to be reviewed. It was a frank discussion. It was with Mrs. Garton, Mr. Tobin, and our internal auditor. We've set out that we would like to know if this is something that is just a human error. Equally, are there training opportunities or supervisory issues? Because if one individual was having to do something on a regulatory basis, which was so prescriptive in legislation, which it is, it needs another oversight. It needs somebody else to look at this. Equally, I'm a little bit confused by, are we angry as either a council or the public? Are we angry that the council has lost 40,000, 50,000, wherever we are on the figures, and that's gone to the public with free parking? And on the Monopoly Board, free parking is great, but it doesn't really mean anything. You still end up falling on a property which costs at some point. Or are we trying to say, where's that money gone to? As a fiscal conservative, you are sort of saying, isn't it good that the more money you save than it going to the state, it's in your pocket, so it could go to the shopkeeper, yourself, your family? Some of us would say that's a good thing. Councillor Cox, I think, has given a very good outcome of it, and while we don't share the same political ideology, as I understand, and when we had a phone call on this, she was saying, in her speech, she said reserves have gone up by £1 million. Over the phone, you said 1.2 million. So I don't want to quote that one if it is $1 million. However, maybe Rachel from accounts, I'd promote you to the Chancellor personally. I think that's a good thing that we've put more money into the reserves, and it is important on that. This may be a human error. I certainly do not subscribe to a witch hunt of any officer whatsoever. And as Chair of Audit, and I know I can speak to my Vice Chair and the committee, we will look at this in a non-partisan way when the report is out. Yes, there clearly has been a mistake, and yes, that has cost the council, but it has benefited other people. I would look forward to Audit reporting back to full council on that. So in terms of the motion, I don't think the part of Audit and Standards is required. When we go to request point A, issue a public statement acknowledging the error, I think that's already happened in the Melton Times. There is an error. We don't need to point that again. Clarifying financial adjustments and confirming whether the anticipated revenue and all the other stuff are, there are some good points here. That all said, it is important, if you're on audit and standards, to turn up to those meetings and hold the council and its officers to account. And we hold the council and officers to account on audit and standards. We do it fairly and impartially, but you have to turn up to the meetings. And some people don't. And I will just leave that there, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Arnott.
Madam Mayor, thank you for your forbearance. Just a quick word of clarification. The additional costs incurred from reimbursement and investigating the error equate to £4,836. And I don't think there was an additional cost of an advert because the error was actually not putting the advert in the first place. So the cost of putting the advert in would have been incurred in any case. Now, it is right that the council has the opportunity to discuss this matter, but I rebut most of the statements in the motion which we are asked to note and resolve. They are largely speculative and unsubstantiated. Now, this is not surprising to me because Councillor Brown and his associates have a track record on this. In advance of this meeting, they issued a press statement, which I have in my hand, that was frankly a pack of untruths, and the numbers didn't add up. And that chimed in with the false accusations that they made about car parking during the Asperby by-election during October and November 2023. Yet from 2019, they gifted to a private company free parking on 6 out of 7 days a week, where I estimate 100 to 200 car parking spaces were possible. And this denuded the council's own car parks of revenue, while the private company was periodically charging residents and traders using the gifted site. And to add insult to injury, the gifted car park is overland in the council's possession, and I have proof of that from a scrutiny meeting in September 2023. The loss of income lasted, in that case, for 3 years, not 3 weeks. On taking office in May 2023, I was left with an untenable legal position and a weak income stream for repairing out-of-date and malfunctioning car park equipment. Madam Mayor, none of this excuses the fact that a mistake was made. So what of this mistake? The intended changes to our car parking charges, both increases and further concessions, were publicly known and by all councillors from November 2024. And we know this because they were finally incorporated in our budget proposals for this year, and members opposite offered no critique at that time, no amendments and no proposals for parking charges, and in fact they were whipped to abstain on the vote. So clearly they couldn't make up their mind then. I obviously exclude Councillor Holmes from that because she wasn't here. However, I know that some in the public domain knew about the proposals because I received lots of commentary from them by the usual means. However, the relevant act clearly stipulates that these type of proposals must be advertised in the local press, even though the circulation of the printed version is in decline. And this is referred to in the Road Traffic Act 1984. And it's very clear about that. I won't read it all out now because it's available. But here is the size of the advert. That's the size of the error, a small error from which a larger problem arose naturally. A small mistake with larger consequences. The legislation clearly prescribes and proscribes what revenue from car parking can be used, and the 1984 Act states precisely what local authorities can use the money for, and it's certainly not for general fund use outside a very narrow range of provisions. I won't read it all out now, Madam Mayor, so that we can conclude. But Madam Mayor, I'm not inclined to vote for this motion as it stands. It is a rant asking for those things which are already in hand and in advance of all the information being gathered, which I think is a very reasonable request. However, in the interest of truth and fair-mindedness and in accordance with our procedural rules, particularly at Chapter 3, Section 151, 15, I now propose an amendment to the motion, which will now be circulated. It has been validated by the monitoring officer and indicates the words to be omitted and the words to be added. Madam Mayor, I so move, and I believe that Councillor Brown will second me. Thank you.
Councillor Brown, would you like to second this, please?
Madam Mayor, I think I need to read it first before I second anything.
No. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, not Councillor Brownie, Councillor Brown.
Councillor Brown, would you like to second this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I very carefully listened to your exhortations at the beginning of the meeting, not to make this personal, and I will do my best not to cross that line. But I'm rising to support this amendment and oppose the motion originally tabled for a number of reasons. I mean, firstly, I started off looking at the original motion, looking for the common ground. We should look for common ground across this chamber. And the only common ground I could find is that all of us, I hope all of us, were extremely disappointed, to put it mildly, that such an error should be made in the post of the notice for amended car parking charges. And as a result, the council sustained the losses that have been explained to you in full tonight. But then I listened carefully to Councillor Orson and also Councillor Child in putting forward their justification for their proposal in their motion, and frankly found it difficult to accept their analysis, which leads us down the road of suggesting there is something fundamentally at fault in the governance of this authority. And I thought, you know, that sits a bit uncomfortably with me, and I reflected on some of the events of the past. Events around the paying of invoices to the tune of £250,000 in error. Issues such as and I know I'm going back in time, and some of the members would be here when this occurred, when the core strategy collapsed in 2013, and as a result, the local plan had to be recommenced at a huge cost to this authority. The administration that was then at that time under the control of the members opposite. And when we talk about analysing the additional staffing costs around this error, Councillor Childs, I wonder how much the additional staffing costs and consultants costs and other associated costs were when that error was made. And I don't recall the administration resigning or feeling that it was at fault at that time. Councillor Childs talked about financial prudence, about the importance of ensuring that our systems are in place. I think you've heard tonight that the only issue here that we should be asking the question about is whether there's a systemic failure in the way this council is run, or whether an error occurred. I'm already satisfied, based on the reports that we've received from officers and the explanations from portfolio holder Sarah Cox and others, that what we have here is an instance of error. And errors will occur, unfortunately, as our colleagues across the chamber are all too familiar with from their many errors in the many years that they ran this council. And frankly, based on that, it's no wonder that we inherited such a diminished fund of reserves when we took office. And I'm very pleased to hear from Councillor Cox that we've already, in our 2 years in office, started to turn that around. So turning to the amendment specifically, as an alternative to the proposals from the Conservative group, it sets out a number of sensible measures that should be taken, quite rightly, to address the issue that we have before us tonight. Rather than seeking to
throw political stones. And frankly, the motion for the Conservative group is simply a political motion. I understand that. In some senses, I think fair game. That's the nature of politics. You saw an opportunity to have a poke at us as the administration. You released the press release that you did. The purpose of tonight's meeting is so you can go onto social media afterwards and publicise your position. That's politics. But there's an alternative to the politics that you're seeking to engage in. This amendment sets out sensible and measured proposals to ensure that the issue is properly addressed and that this council receives in due course the right assurances that it needs that such matters are not likely to arise again. So I support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I now open this to debate, this amendment to debate. Anybody wishing to speak, please raise your hand. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we'll basically not be supporting the amendment for the fact that we put forward what we feel is a very relevant motion by my colleagues Orson and Child. And furthermore, none of my group have been going on social media, have been going on social media, just to point that out. If other individuals want to do that, take it up with our association, please. And also following is, we've not mentioned once anything about an officer or officers. We've dealt behind the scenes with the senior management. So again, this is not about officers, it's about the administration. So I want to make that absolutely clear. Okay, but following on from speaking now, I want to say that no matter what's been said by both sides, by Councillor Brown, by my side, we must have transparency and commitment to ensure that an error does not happen again. And yes, we've had errors in the past, and have we learned from them? Obviously, clearly not. It is the rule and administration that oversee the running of the council, and it's only fair that the opposition group ask for answers and clarity in public. We have that entitlement. This not only leads to answers, but shows strong, robust scrutiny of the council. And as we said before, in opposition, that's what we would do here. We've given 2 years, and we said we would come back and make sure that you as an administration do what you say you'd do. In relation to Councillor Allnutt's comments about the car parking charges, we did write to the officers saying that we wanted to put an alternative budget in, and we're told that we couldn't because it had been a cabinet decision. So we did do that. We did it through the proper channels, and that was rejected due to due process and the fact that the Constitution doesn't allow us to do that. Just to make that absolutely clear. The recent issues arose have led to many questions, and I appreciate that we've been given written explanations, and it's relevant for us to ask, as is all right, how the procedures were not followed in accordance with processes as has been done in the past. And it's not one individual, there's a whole process, it's a council. Okay, we need to understand how the authority became aware of the issue, how the controls will be put in place in future. Then there was the second error that occurred, which was also unfortunate, that caused further confusion for the public. Then to reopen the car parks with further issues with car parking machines not working has caused again further confusion. Let us also note that the car parks have been jam-packed. We've gone round, you couldn't get a car parking space. Great. And through that whole period, it'll be interesting to note if this benefited the shops and whether the administration will adjust the car parking strategy and payments if it has done so. The cost set out by Councillor Child is more than the income predicted from the 25-26 car parking charges increase fees. But going forward, I hope that this experience leads to more scrutiny when implementing such initiatives or new processes or new charges, and let's hope there are no further financial issues around any other processes in any other departments. Thank you.
Higgins first.
My apologies. Point of clarification. So we have an amendment. Are we debating the amendment or are we voting on the amendment? And then, so I'm just confused at the moment. I'm just.
The amendment.
And then after that, we can then debate that amendment. So we could. So we're debating that a motion's been moved, and that's fine.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, the opposition, just to clarify, so we are currently debating the amendment that has been tabled by Councillor Allnutt and seconded by Councillor Brown. Once the debate is concluded on the amendment, there will be an opportunity for a vote. Subject to that vote, the substantive motion, the original motion, may or may not change. But at the moment, we are debating the amendments. Indeed, we'll revert back to the original debate.
Councillor Lumley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hope your time as Mayor is going well. On May 5th, very, very well done. Being congratulated for the next till next financial year. Just a few things. Councillor Gordon's point, I thought was a very good point. It's actually on this amendment. So just saying that's point number 7. So that's our groups combined did take that into account. Just before I say, can the council leader reply to Councillor Holmes's point regarding her question about whether the previous existing car parking charges could have been maintained without the public not having to pay? That's a very good question. Ultimately, we're all human, officers are human, councillors are human, we all make mistakes. All of us, a lot of us are in jobs, we all make mistakes. It's easily done. I find it quite incredible, officers of this council, they have to go through so many different, you have to go through many sort of acts of parliament or the rules and regulations. It must be extremely difficult to keep up with a lot of these all the time. So I think to make a mistake like this, it's easily done. And of course, we don't want it to happen again. And I agree with the points of one of the councillors where it's extra training that can be done, etc., for officers to improve their sort of any of their skill base, etc. That would be really good. I'd called for car parking charge freezes or free parking when I was in the Conservative Party all those years ago, and as a trial to see what it would be like. I know every year, so every 4 years, we were increasing parking charges, and it was just, and certainly I was getting feedback from quite a few firms and the public to say that if we froze them or reduced them, that it could make the town better. If you watch ITV or BBC East Midlands Today, ITV Central News, often there's trials around different councils around the East Midlands that say they've now frozen parking charges, or they've got free parking. It's actually improved business around the town. That's what my aim was behind that. I think this has actually been quite a success that we've had 3 weeks of free parking, because I think it has been an opportunity for like point number 7 on this amendment, which I, by the way, I do support in all. It's all points. Is that I would like to know what impact having free parking has had on the town, the public. I'd used the free parking around the town a few times during the last 3 weeks. I didn't see it full. I managed to get a car parking spot. There was quite a few spare actually. So others were saying it's completely full and there's queues. I didn't see that personally. And I just think now, I think if there's any sort of like central government funding for free parking for councils around the country, that would be really good. And if we can apply for that. I know that there was free I think there was sort of like car parking machine and upgrade money available also from central government, which I believe we are looking into as a council still. I think it is still there to be applied for, as far as I'm aware. And another thing as well, which is also key with all this, and I think I've got to say this, is that our groups have come together, and our combined groups come together, and we thought actually our car parks needed quite a bit doing to them. We need to make them a bit more efficient for the public. The current ones don't give change, blah blah blah. They don't accept card machine payments, etc. So I actually think this is an opportunity by trying to invest in new car parking machines. From what I've read on reports from our asset development groups, it will actually make efficiency savings in costs as well, in that there'll be more sort of flexibility on how people can pay, and they aren't put off, they can't give change, they'll be able to pay by card, which is obviously better, app, and if they've got change, and that'll be really good, and they'll quite set it up. Our future plan is for us to have a possible ANPR car parks, and I've been for this, pro this for many years.
Councillor Lumley, you've got 20 seconds.
Payment on exit, etc. Yeah, thank you very much. Payment on exit, which was a really good thing. And this 3 weeks has seen that people can go park, actually go uptown, and just relax, have a coffee, friends, family, look on the shops, and not just, and you know, they haven't got to go back to kind of rush to put some money, more money in the parking meter. Thank you, Chair. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Pritchard.
Pardon? Yes, thank you, Councillor Carter. Yes, I am awake. I don't need one, thank you. I didn't think that interjection was appropriate, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. The point's been made in whichever words that you choose to make the point around this motion and the general noise that's been going on for a few weeks around the town of Melton. I'm sympathetic to the amendment, having had a career in governance and previously been the chair of the Audit and Standards Committee. It actually tidies matters up because it allows for a proper investigation to be taken. It mentions the appropriate inclusion in the draft annual governance statement, where you make significant weakness statements in that and what you're doing. So that's an important thing, and it covers the reviews right the way through to the noise from the public and what Marilyn has been mentioned about an analysis of the costs and benefits of some free parking. So I think it says the same thing, but actually tidies it up. So I am, as I say, I'm sympathetic to the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard.
Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. And to be fair, is the Audit and Standards Committee is a lot further robust. Thanks for the work that you did when you was chair as well. As Councillor Lumley did say, and I've got here, Councillor Holmes, it was a very good question. I think it was a question I asked, so it hasn't been answered. Is so if a mistake's raised, why didn't we go back to the original charges? And I do think that's a question, maybe for transparency for the public. But well, you know, it's great that the public have had something free. What I will say is, just to end this, I heard what the leader of the opposition said, and yes, to hold people to account and leadership as well. But if someone puts something on social media, it's not acceptable to turn around and say, write to my chairman, let's just call it out. I'll call it out. What was said on social media was wrong. It's not right to say, call my chairman. Thank you. Oh, the motion be put, if that's okay.
Proposal to put the motion, the amendment to the vote. You have to decide now whether you're satisfied there's been enough debate. If you are, it needs to be seconded, and then the leader has the opportunity of a final right of appeal.
Right. Does anybody want to second the motion?
To put.
To put.
Okay. So there's no one. So no one. Okay. So Madam Mayor, no one is seconding. One moment.
Yep,
one moment. One moment. You're seconding the motion to put.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then that needs. The amendment.
Right. I can now put it to the vote, please.
So just members, just to be clear, this is the motion to put essentially ends the debate on the amendment. It's been moved and seconded, and therefore in voting now, you are confirming your support to conclude the debate on the amendment. If it is passed, then the leader, as the proposer of the amendment, will have the opportunity for the final word on that part of the debate, and then we will vote on the amendment itself. Hopefully that is clear. So you are voting on the motion to put now, and you would need to indicate whether you support that motion or not. Needed to conclude the debate on the amendment.
So the motion's been carried, and I'll put to Councillor Almond to finish. Yes, Councillor Gordon.
Off. Right, got. Okay, on the recalibration point, I did ask that question myself when I was notified about this, and there was a technical problem with the cost of redoing the recalibration, and I think we agreed that it would be cleaner and better just to get on with the job, you know, cut our losses, as it were. But I will confirm that with the officers out of the meeting and write back to you on that. Okay, but that I asked the same question. Thank you, Councillor Pritchett, for your constructive points. I just want to refer to Councillor Ronan Brown's points, because he said that he was prevented from putting forward proposals. Now, I understand what you're saying. Now, when I arrived here, these sort of charges were not even taken to cabinet. They were going to be made outside of cabinet, and I didn't like that, so I brought it back into cabinet. And the point about the cabinet is that, as you know, members can attend cabinet and ask questions and can ask cabinet to change policy. That's why I mentioned the fact that we discussed it in November last year. So I wasn't aware that you'd gone to the officers to ask in the terms that you had. If you talked to me, I would have perhaps listened a bit more than I have done, but I would have done. And you know, there's always scrutiny. So, and then of course it came to budget, and to my mind, and I may have been overruled by the monitoring officer, but I always think when you get to the budget, that's a chance for anyone to put down amendments. So I think there's obviously a misunderstanding here, and I certainly would not wish any group and any number of members from having the ability to put forward alternative ideas. So I hope we can go forward on that and maybe talk to the officers about how we might do that better in the future. But I do iterate what some of my colleagues have said. We have been frustrated in the past 2 years by the relative inattendance of some of yourselves at some meetings. And I think if we could get round that problem, we'd have a more open approach to things. So I don't want to say any more, Madam Mayor, but I'm grateful for Councillor Pritchard's waking moments, and that he's helped me to understand that we put these words together really well. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. I do appreciate that.
Right, now we voting to see if we accept this amendment into the standing motion presented by Councillor Olsen. Are we ready to vote?
Yes, on the amendment, yes. Voting on the amendment, yes, right, yes. Okay, so that is, so including Councillor Gordon, that is 16 for, 1 abstention and 6 against.
So that's 16 for, 1 abstention and 6 against. Right, so that's carried. So the amendment stands to the original motion. We now return to the original debate. A seconder for this, Councillor Brown.
Go to the vote.
Right. Does anybody else want to debate on this? Otherwise, we can go straight to the vote.
So we're going to go to the motion to put. So this is now to proceed with a vote. So we're going to vote on the motion to put. Okay, so just to be clear, members, we are voting on the motion to put, which will end the debate, and then it will return to Councillor Orson as the proposer to have the final word before we then vote on the amended substantive motion. You will. No. So no, because No, you are the proposer of the amended motion. So you have the right of the final word before the vote. That's fine. But I think firstly, we are moving to the, one moment, Councillor Orson, we are moving to the motion to put.
So could you just explain that again? Because I thought as I understood, the amendment went through, the amendment's carried, which is Councillor Allnut and Councillor Brown, and then we've done that. So could you just clarify all that?
Yes. So
please? Thank you.
The original motion has been amended as per the amendment proposed by Councillor Allnut. That is now the substantive motion, which means we have returned to the original debate. We have also now had moved and seconded a motion to put, which is seeking to curtail the ongoing original debate. We now need to vote on that motion to put. So in voting now, you are confirming your support or otherwise for curtailing the debate. And then I will explain thereafter, depending on the outcome of that vote.
So that's 17 for, so that's carried, and 6 abstentions.
Madam Mayor, with your permission, just to clarify what happens now. So we are now ending the debate, but as the proposer of the original motion, Councillor Orson has the final word, and then we will vote on the amended substantive motion to conclude this evening's proceedings.
I've got to say, I got a bit confused in all that, and I'm with Councillor Higgins, to be honest. I think I think we're both coming from the same place, to be honest. So we may be old school, but I think that's the way to put it. But hey ho, we are where we are. So, well, number one, I'm very grateful for Mike Brown's words. Actually, that democracy is alive. That's great, isn't it? That's what this is all about. And I'm absolutely delighted Mike said those few words. It is the opposition's duty. I use that word not lightly, not heavily, but it is our duty. And even the leader said he's not surprised. Effectively, I can't remember the actual words, but it's our right to challenge, and that's what we've done tonight. There has been errors, there's no doubt about that. Obviously, audit and standards are going to be look at this. As I said earlier, it's not just one error, there was a sequence of errors. It's never happened before. So I do rely on the Chair of Audit and Standards and his committee to look into this diligently, which I'm sure they will do, and report back to the full council. I think it's been a good debate, actually. I've enjoyed it myself, listening to everyone. I don't think I've ever known quite so many members get up and get so involved for a long, long time. So it's brought it all to the top, and that's good. That's what this is all about. Disappointing that YouTube is down again, I have to say, because I think we could have had quite a few figures again. I'm not sure when, because I know it's down again for the planning meeting a fortnight ago. I think it was down before that. I'm not sure for a full council as well. So it seems to be a long while, Mr. Chief Executive, if that could be looked at, because I do know members of the public were looking forward to the debate tonight, actually, and I know certainly a couple of individuals who are very, very disappointed. One of them has asked me, by the way, will the and you did confirm there will be an audio recording. Will that be made public at all? And that will be on the website as well. Brilliant. So thank you very much, members. Obviously, I'm disappointed my motion didn't get through. But having said that, it's brought us forward. There is going to be a hard look at it. What we don't want, though, is just being, I use this very lightly, and you may criticise me for me, but just swept under a carpet. It's got to be, and I'm confident the Chairman of Audit and Standards will not do that. It has to be a hard look at it, with there being a number of errors. It's not just one error. I go back to that. There's 3 errors, if not 4, and that's what concerns me. Never happened before, ever, to this council, but it's happened this time. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Alton. Right, for the final time, we're going for the vote. We are now voting for the final time for the amended motion. Please put your votes in. So the result is 16 for and 7 abstentions, so it's carried. Thank you. That concludes the business at 19:35.
Members, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the Mayor of the Borough of Melton, Councillor Siggy Atherton.